Hello, world of the internet. My name is Martha, and you may not know this, but I'm a thought catalog addict. I read their blog pretty regularly. And today, sitting in my dorm room with a friend of mine, I came across one that was particularly interesting. The title got me, so I decided I'd start reading, and I'm going to read this to you because, wow, not what I expected. It's called Things I've Learned from Assholes. And it's by Julia Specht. Interesting name, Julia Specht. Let me clarify, before you read further, that when I say assholes, I'm not referring to mean or frustrating people. I'm talking about actual assholes. This is an article about rimming, and there I just freaked out for about 35 seconds before I continued. I know, she says. Some of you just fainted. Well, break out the smelling salts and stay with me because it's worth talking about. For many sexually active adults, there comes a time in a sexual relationship where the possibility of this particular action is broached. Some people agree that it's not something they want to do. Some people just ignore the prospect entirely, pretending that they would never think of doing such a thing. Some people, the strongest of stomach, God bless them, dive in with gusto and enthusiasm. Some people, like me, are put into the situation where the only reasonable decision is, in truth, the only rational course of action is to lick some taint. It's a fairly common situation, though, especially for those of us who paint ourselves as poster children for sexual liberation. I mean, there are only so many times you can espouse the virtues of reciprocation at cocktail parties before someone will assume that you're fine with putting your tongue in their ass. I can sputter and make it sound like a request that would be totally unexpected, but it's not as though 10 minutes into the first date, some man sitting on the other side of the table from me pushed aside the flower arrangement and said, "Wow, you seem really interesting. Later tonight, I expect you to perform ass to mouth." I can't pretend I had no hand in the creation of this predicament. I sort of set myself up, but still, even though I've never been the gasp and clutch my pearls type, being faced with this particular task made me blush a little. A little. Are you kidding me? That would make me just wow. Anyway. For me, the first time it became an issue was with a man I'd been sleeping with for only a few weeks. He was attractive and intelligent, a quality human being, sexually compatible with me, and generally a pleasure to spend time with. I felt comfortable trusting him early, and when he was driving, as it were, I didn't really worry too much about what he chose to do with my body at any point in time. Which made it all the more shocking when all of a sudden, during a bout of oral sex, I realized that he was inching slowly downward, closing in on that particular area that made my body freeze up like a rabbit. A rabbit confronted with a rocket launcher. A rabbit confronted with a slew of rocket launchers operated by sophisticated dolphins. Now, I had partners go down there before. Usually they flirted with the area briefly, too coy to actually go for it, and I could simply pretend that it was an accident. That for some reason my vagina was particularly difficult to hit target, and my ass somehow got in the way. What? If they stayed down there a little too long, a quietly moaned, "What are you doing?" usually sufficed to shake their intentions and intimidate them away from the area. But in this instance, there was nothing to be questioned. He was going for it, unequivocally, undoubtedly, with no hesitation and no lack of shame. No pun intended. My brain was overtaken by a flood of objections. In my head, I asked, "Won't you get diseased?" I think that's how people get chloria and diphtheria. Maybe both at once. Meaning he'll definitely be in the hospital within 72 hours, and I'll be watching you puke out your liver in some bleak white room with stupid posters about appropriate hand-washing techniques, and as your skin is peeling off your body and your eyes are melting, you'll look at me and say, "Curse you, Julia, a pox upon you and your family and your people," or something like that. And then I'll have to live with the knowledge that I unintentionally murdered you. You, the person...
Just gonna walk away.
That I'm really... the person that I'm really interested in, who I could have had a great relationship with, who could potentially have been a husband or father of my children, dead because of my filthy, disgusting ass diseases. And then... my ass will have killed, and once it's tasted blood, God knows what will happen. What the fuck? This woman is crazy. Oh, one of my friends just came in and he got scared away. Interesting subject matter. I didn't actually say any of this, though, because after about a minute of the freaking out, oh god, I pooped from there. I realized that the whole thing actually just felt awesome. Like, really, really good. Butterflies flipping up and down my spine good. Electric rivers through all my muscles good. Oh my god, I think this is what religion feels like good. I'd never felt anything like this from my body before. It certainly was the most intense sensation I'd ever felt. But it was gentle, and it was new, and it was exhilarating, and it was something I didn't know I wanted.
Stop talking about sex.
Cut to a few days later. The same situation, roles reversed. The opportunity to do the same, to give back all the pleasure I'd been given, was right there, just waiting. I just had to do it. Except,
Oh my
God! Wow, I mean, who's brave enough to just
god.
go?
Oh.
Right in there! Except I was paralyzed. My muscles stopped moving. My arms began to tremble. My mouth felt like it had been swabbed with a paper towel. What was I afraid of? I could say it was some disease phobia I have.
That's so gross.
Wave of Gloria card and call it a day. Which actually would be entirely fair. Rimming, or analingus, as it's referred to by the professionals in Doctorland, has a fairly wide host of diseases associated with it. The whole hepatitis alphabet, all your standard sexually transmitted diseases, HPV, even conjunctives can be transmitted through ass to mouth. Most healthy professionals recommend using dental dams of some sort, which can be fashioned easily from a condom or plastic wrap. I wasn't doing this, and perhaps should have been. Oh my god, plastic wrap in your butt to prevent you from spreading diseases when you go ass to mouth. Here's the solution. Just don't go ass to mouth. Why would you even want to stick your mouth where someone else shits? Ugh.
What's that movie?
What movie?
The movie that they get like sewn together.
Human Centipede. Human Centipede. I never saw that movie, but the concept just freaks me out.
Sure.
But honestly, and practically speaking, if all areas were washed carefully ahead of time and you know your partner well enough that their status on the STD front, you probably can't catch anything. Also, just to put this to rest, nobody is going to get chloria. Nobody, unless you're putting your tongue in the ass of someone who already has chloria, in which case, by that point, you have probably caught it elsewhere. So, that wasn't it. No, the truth is, I sat there staring at a beautiful human being in front of me, and the only thing I could think about was what he had given me for only a few days before. I was overcome with memories of how wonderful I felt. The sex that directly followed, and the way he stroked my hair afterward, and he held me to his chest as I drifted in and out of sleep. And bulging under those same memories throbbed those mean reds of inadequacy. Bleh. Because I was certain, in that very moment, I would never be able to give him what he had given to me. It would be like so many other things, almost everything in my life. I was to absorb all of these beautiful experiences like a selfish, egotistic sponge, and then be left incapable of giving back what I'd taken in. Because I'm selfish and egocentric. So much so that I'm afraid of stuttering for even a moment, terrified to risk the possibility of perfection for the pleasure of another person. But this was the moment something clicked for me, something incredibly cliché that I had been told 100,000 million times, which refused to acknowledge for some silly, stupid reason. That desire to run, that was the stutter. While somehow blotching out the whole thing and flailing to reciprocate a beautiful experience would have been bad, it would have been way better than what I had to do. The fact that it was more frightening to me at the time to be less than perfect, and that it was no try at all. That was wrong. And if I had acted on the fear, it would have been worse failure than anything I could have done. So I went for it. It tasted just fine. Just like normal skin. It felt okay too. The best part was the noise.
What?
The tiny little moans started to slip out of him every time I moved my tongue. I could feel him writhing, starting to push up and down with my movements. Delightful, perfect, and the next day, no diseases. She licked his butt inside. Oh my god. Wow, the things you can read on the internet. This is what I learned. That life is a giant taint. Stretched out in a broad expanse of pink and warmth in front of you. You just have to stick your tongue in and go. Eventually you'll learn it's not rocket science, and even though life is like a disgusting, repulsive thing to do with your body, and oh dear God, why? It's never as gross as you think it's going to be. Actually, maybe that's where the analogy ends. And that's the article. Someone felt so strongly about ass to mouth that she wrote a blog on an incredibly popular site where she's one of the main contributors. And I just am flabbergasted. I don't even know what to think right now, but holy ass to mouth. On that note, have an enjoyable Thursday evening.